Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us. I'm Katie Z with FIO Protocol. Today is January 21st, and I'm joined with Eric Butz, who's the lead developer of FIO. So I'm so excited for the community to get to see you, hear from you, and get a little bit more of your insights of what's going on at FIO. So thank you so much for joining, Eric.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. Good to introduce myself to the FIO community.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to hopefully doing, getting more and more of the team out there and facing and talking with the community too is
Yeah, we'll
great.
see if we can pull some of those developers out of the dark rooms. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
It may not happen.
So Eric, why don't, since this is one of the first times that you're really coming out publicly onto a video with the community, I think anyway, could you give like a little bit of background of like who you are, how you got involved with FIO, things like that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm the VP of engineering actually for the FIO group. So I run the development group. I've been there since about September of 2019. So I came in on board about halfway through the project when we were still developing the core software to help work with and run the development group. My background is, I mean, I've been in software and technology for a long time. I have been doing startups kind of at the startup role and CTO role since like 1995 when I was doing internet startups and actually started up a web development company back then and went through several other, usually working with smaller companies. Most recently, the company I was at was acquired by Oracle, and I was at Oracle as a director of software development for about 10 years. And the reason and how I actually kind of I've always had a peripheral reading interest in Bitcoin and blockchain and crypto. And what really got me interested is I won't say a break, but I took some time to actually get my PhD in public affairs, really focused on organizational dynamics and groups. And the overlap with governance, obviously, that comes from public affairs and my PhD. And I kind of wish I'd done my dissertation on crypto and blockchain governance, but I didn't. That's really what said, you know what, my interest in governance and how crypto and mainly blockchain groups and protocols how governance is so central to those. That's when I decided, you know what, I was looking to move on from Oracle, and I said, I am only looking in the blockchain space. And I met David Gold, who was the CEO of Dapix at that time, and we had a good conversation. And he brought me on board where I had not managed a blockchain group before, but it's been a good learning experience. And then and about 6 months later, he's like, great, here you go. You have 6 months to get 1.0 out the door. That was last March. And since then, we've been trying to evolve the protocol ever since. Working with Luke has been amazing as a visionary there and as a leader of kind of the overall like direction. And David has just given as well, has been a great leader. And we have Pavo, who's our product manager, who may have also spoken, but he is great at defining those products. So that's how I got on board.
I love that. And this is something that I'm trying to, especially as I'm helping with some of the marketing and communicating from the inside to the outside, and being as transparent as we can be, that I keep talking about is, this is a stellar team. I've been involved in blockchain full time for a little over 3 years. I've worked directly with probably 15 to 20 companies, indirectly with hundreds. And and I mean it, like this team is like extraordinary. The talent on this team is, untouchable compared to so many. And so I didn't actually know that about your Oracle background. So what a change. You went from something so big to startup grind, right?
Well, I kind of see it the other way, where I was always in startups. Like I had done my internet startup that was acquired. I left that. I did another startup. That one didn't go anywhere. That was like during the kind of the crash of 2000. And then I went to another smaller company that was acquired by a company called Hyperion, which immediately was acquired by Oracle. So I kind of got pulled into this Oracle big company, and that was so new for me. And it is not where I mean, it was great. And the teams there were actually, the tech talent within Oracle on some of those teams is amazing as well. But just that environment was not as dynamic as I needed. So I kind of always knew that I would be leaving for something smaller, and the blockchain space. It's what you can get burned out on startups as well. And what I found is what I loved about the internet startups back in the day was the community dynamic, and kind of the revolutionary dynamic, and the how do we change the world dynamic, which is 100% present in the blockchain space.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I'm encountering all the same stuff that I encountered back then, when no one even knew what a URL was. And I remember walking in 1999 to like a large drug company that we were trying to sell our business to business product to. And they're like, son, the internet's dead. And you're like, okay, where do I go with that? And now I'm getting told, oh, crypto's dead, crypto's dying. This will never go anywhere. It's not a real technology. So I love that, like, okay, the same skepticism is there, but back then I might have actually listened to them. And nowadays I'm like, you know what, if you don't want to believe, don't believe.
Yeah.
We're moving forward to change the world. And so
It's
that's what I love about it.
immersive. So great. I'm so glad that the community can get to know you a little bit better in that context too. And the purpose of these videos is to give an update. So why don't we dive right into the thick of some of what is going on, on your front at FIO, some of the things that we're working on. We just had Mainnet 2.3 was released. I should note, and I also want to put this out there because this is such a pain of the felt by so many in the industry, that there's timelines that will be communicated that certain technology will be shipped on, and people really hang on to this date and they get emotional about that date, and then something happens and the dates always get pushed back. FIO, and you've clearly done a phenomenal job with managing the engineers and those working on the technology stack to deliver on time with FIO. I mean, it's sterling, the record that you guys have. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's been an interesting, so the 1.0 comes out, and as you mentioned, the development group are the main drivers of this. They were able to get a 1.0 out where everyone's like, push this out the door and we'll fix what we need to fix afterward. And that went out the door and nothing really broke, right? I mean, we've done the security audits obviously early on, and we've done a certain amount of QA, but there was expectations that we would have gaps. And that went out the door last March of 2000, and really was stable. Now, that's not to say we didn't have some fixes we needed to do. And the cadence, we actually had to take a step back in the summer, but the cadence since September has been almost monthly releases. It was an aggressive plan to say, can we get, a big fix out? We actually did a whole chain, and I'll explain the difference between the chain and the contract code, but a whole forking chain code fix in September. And since then, we've had in October, we had in November, December, we didn't do a full release for some holiday reasons, but we just did the kind of December release in early January. Now we've got this larger chain code release coming up as well that kind of adds a lot of different functions that I can talk about and features. So yeah.
And so why don't you share with the community some of the feature sets that were part of this release, and why these features specifically were implemented?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm just going to share something really quickly here too. It's good to know when we talk about what we're working on, there's some of the kind of core, what I'll call core. Am I sharing now?
Yeah, you're
yep.
sharing.
Okay.
Can
So,
you zoom in? Oh, can you blow that up a little bit, or Control plus, or?
Yep, Control plus that. Let me click on it. So these are the FIO improvement proposals. This is out on the FIO Protocol GitHub site, which is where we keep these. And I would refer to these as core feature upgrades that users that are out there actively using our software, when they're running into usability issues or frankly technical issues, we encourage our community create FIO improvement proposals, and there are several out here. But in addition, we'll create those ourselves and just kind of build those out. So this has been a big part of the push since September, is to improve usability. For example, one of the early features that has been discussed is the ability to, I need to be able to transfer my domain from either I want to sell it to somebody, or I want to create a domain for a friend, or I just want to move my domain from one wallet to another without having to export a public, my private key and import my whole account into another wallet or something like that. So if you look at FIP1, this is the ability to, transfer FIO domains and FIO addresses. One of the things that was in our most recent January release here, which was a contract level release, was the ability to transfer addresses. So we've completed that now and moved that into final. So it's always great to check these statuses off and move them to final there.
I should also note, Luke, just this past week has published a how-to guide on his personal blog on PeakD. So for those watching this video, I'll include the links to some of this, all of this that you're watching, so that you can just go down into the description and read a little bit deeper into them too. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah, and these always go into a certain, every FIO improvement proposal goes into a community review phase where we ask for feedback. And it's always tough because it takes some time to dig into these, but we actually are growing the number of people that will come in, really think these through and help us, change the design. Really, this becomes an early design. Because you actually dig into these and they look like, oh, there's a lot of technical jargon and interface stuff and return codes in there. So, giving feedback at the higher level on what it should do versus the kind of core code. So for example, we are now looking at two important proposals, and I don't have that here now, but are the FIO, we're trying to wrap FIO tokens and FIO domains as an NFT onto the ETH chain. So get wrapped FIO and get NFT for your domains. That's an important and heavily requested feature that's in the community review and design right now. So, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback on that. Staking is another one that we're actually under design on. So how can we encourage people who have tokens or are holding FIO tokens to benefit from being early supporters of FIO by being able to lock and get returns on, and figure out how to add value to our protocol with their tokens, is how I would refer to staking more than anything. So there's those types of features as well. So I'm going to quickly just click on how, as a development manager, I live and die by my release plans. I'll never say a date, Katie, by the way, so you don't need to worry about that. So on a future release, I always clam up when asked that. But I have the master release plan here. And if we kind of go down and look, there's this most recent FIO contracts release, and it lists out the different features. I mentioned staking because one of the features that came out this month that, again, we're very excited about the staking idea. One of the things you kind of need with staking is, how do you lock up tokens? And we had some old lock tokens code that we had used for locking up kind of the initial token allocations over several years, but it was never a general availability thing. So this FIP6, what we refer to as transfer of locked tokens, solves that problem. So we now have this infrastructure for moving into staking. And, just to talk about this January release more generally, there's the FIO Medium blog posts out there that Kate, you're very aware of. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. And all this will be linked down below. And I want to point out too, talking about staking and recognizing the role of the token into the FIO ecosystem is, this is about securing the network too, through the block producers and rewards, and the ability to do more with the integration partners. And all of these are working like gears coming together. It's very easy to solve a problem with a centralized solution. It's a little bit more complex when you're trying to do it in a decentralized fashion. And that's what FIO is doing.
Yeah. I mean, Totally right on. And one of the learning curves has been, I mean, we have a great set of block producers out there. So we're a DPoS system. So we have 21 block producers that make all the decisions for the protocol, right? What code to deploy? Obviously we do a lot of development work and help that out, but they decide when that's going to get deployed. They're the ones giving a lot of great feedback on kind of what directions and what we should be focusing on and a lot of technical aspects of what we deploy. But learning to work within a group that I am just one cog in this wheel that makes everything work, and to say, and I'll, actually I can get into it now, but when you put out a contract update, so contract updates are one kind of release within the chain. It's the contracts are your state machine. So every single update to your contract, it's what's held in state. It's what, when you go out and look at the data and do lookups, that if you're not looking at a history node, it's what's available. So at any snapshot in time, you have a state of our FIO protocol that has a certain number of requests and token allocations and everything there. And you can track every contract update back to the Genesis node, right? That's what's in the logs. And so when we're doing contract updates, you're generally working with the BPs to get those rolled out, and then it kind of automatically gets spread out to all the nodes out there. When you get to larger chain, but these guys are running infrastructure, and then there's occasions where you have to run or deploy a chain rollout. And I'm getting a little bit of the nitty gritty, but then you have to work with a community, not only of 21 BPs to update they have to update their software. It's like an IT shop. You have to go into every user and have them update their machine. They all get out there and update their machines, but then you have all of our integration partners. So we have a ton of wallets, and we have to like 14 wallets and exchanges now that we've integrated with that all have to upgrade their API nodes as well. So working like software deployment within a distributed community is really interesting. You got to be careful what you release to everyone, right? Because they have critical infrastructure running on that. So it is securing that chain and making sure it stays secure is huge. Yeah, good point.
And to note that not only is that the current ecosystem, but that it's rapidly expanding. There's, I think actively right now, there's 4 other wallets and exchanges that are under development. There was I think it came out in AMB Crypto. There was an article, I can link that below, but just touches on, who they are. It's Trusty Wallet, Frontier App, and Changely, and oh Lord, forgive me. And I am so sorry to who this is, but I'm drawing a blank on the last one. But there's a lot of activities, and that's just continuing to grow. So as you're thinking about, what you just mentioned, that every time that you have to be careful about or thoughtful, we should say, of what you're putting out, that it's affecting this greater decentralized group.
Right, and those are the groups that have been announced, and then you'll get in the developer channel like, oh, I was integrating, FIO and like have no idea who this was, and I pulled in the SDK and this appears to be broken. I'm like, what wallet is this? Like, I think there's a lot more out there than, at the kind of lower level, and maybe it doesn't float to the top of however many users they have, but they have a community going and they're doing integrations as well. And maybe it's just not official because that's part of open source as well, right? So
speaking of, we can't give too much details because we're fleshing this out right now. But I'm really excited. We had a call this morning with Pavo, who you mentioned, who heads up product, Casey, who is also one of the developers of FIO, David Gold, the founder of Dapix that helped us launch FIO, and then myself, and we will be at ETH Denver, it sounds like. So definitely networking in with a lot of other developers. So looking forward to that opportunity, however that kind of comes together, we got to figure out. But if you're attending ETH Denver, FIO shall be there. And so I just encourage you guys to let us know. We're working on kind of VIP and exclusive ways to give special treatment to our community that will be in attendance there and those that connect with us. So reach out about that. Also, I should last and certainly not least, because we do want to keep these a little bit brief. We just crossed the 100,000 new address registration.
Woo. Yeah.
Yes, woo.
That's huge. Huge. Yeah.
that really is something. I mean, that was fantastic. If you're watching this, because I do a lot of the marketing and promotions, so I'm excited to share this with you guys. There is a Twitter post, and it's mentioned in our email blast that went out. So if you're not subscribed to that, that's another great way. We'll be churning those out more regularly in 2021 to keep everyone updated on what's going on. It was mentioned in there, so subscribe to the email. And then there's a Medium blog post, which I'll link below, that touches on it, and it has a link to the Twitter post. If you just go to join FIO at Twitter, you'll see it. But anybody who comments with their FIO address, which is your username, @ and the domain. So it could be like, mine is z@edge would be my FIO address. Comment with that and then retweet it, and we'll be giving away $100 in recognition of this milestone of 100,000 addresses.
Yeah, it is awesome.
Congratulations, by the way. That must have been really cool for you and your team specifically.
Yeah, I mean, getting kind of the data type feedback. I mean, we always get feedback from the community and people seem excited, or some people aren't, but getting kind of those number type feedbacks. Like I remember when we were hitting like, oh, it's 1,000, then it's 10,000, then it's 20, then it's 100,000 is just the community taking charge almost, and just starting to get involved and starting to love it. And anyone who it's tough to get the word out about new technologies and new thinking, but we're trying to make crypto easier to use. And I think someone who hears our story wants to use it, and it's exciting to see that they're actually going out there and taking action on that and getting those addresses. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't registered your FIO address, that link will be below. And make sure you get a FIO address. Comment on this video. Let us know your feedback, what you like, what you'd like to hear more about, different things like that, so that we can always improve this type of activity that we're doing and putting out there. But comment with your FIO address too, and someone will receive a little FIO joy, as I say, and we'll go from there. Any final?
Yeah, at ETH Denver too, we will be having bounties. So we're sponsoring. We'll have bounties. We're putting together. It'll probably be something where you have to do some simple integration of FIO, maybe some interesting ideas that'll come out of that as well. But building our developer community outside of kind of this core group is one of our main initiatives. So definitely reach out directly to me or to Katie if you're a developer and are getting excited about it. So
Yeah, would love that. And I can't speak firsthand, but I hear that the integrating the send feature is really light. It's a light lift for developers to do too. So it's something that should should receive a lot of attention, I think, at this event.
yeah, the idea of a send being you have a FIO address, Eric at Edge. I have many. And to be able to say, I want to send crypto to Eric at Edge, what's your address for Bitcoin? And doing a lookup using FIO is a very easy lift. And to get just people familiar with that, you can use that, and it doesn't have to be a FIO-based application. It could be you're running ETH application. You want to look up an ETH address for where to send your crypto. We have a few exchanges that do allow you to exchange tokens that way. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you again so much for doing this with us, and we'll bring you back in one of the future weeks, I'm sure, as some more product gets rolled out that we can talk on. And until next week, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.